What's up, YouTube? My name is Mike, and welcome to 3D, Dad's Do's and Don'ts. So, the last couple of videos have just been open conversations about politics, the upcoming election, and the candidates who are involved on the Democratic side, and of course, President Trump. So, I, to this point, have not decided who I'm going to vote for. I take voting very seriously. When I was younger, I lost my voting rights. I got into some trouble when I was a kid, and I spent about 10 years in prison. And then after that, I had to fight for about another 10 years, 8 or 9 years, in order to have my voting rights restored. So they have been restored. I have been eligible to vote in the last 2 presidential elections. In the first one, I did vote, and the last one, I did not. So I'm kicking myself in the butt for that. I wish I would have exercised my right to vote. I just didn't like either one of the candidates, if I'm just going to be, honest about it. I didn't think either one of them would be a good choice. But I know that that isn't good enough. To not be a part of the system because you don't like who's going to be in charge, that's not okay. I think that you have to try to find the lesser of two evils if it comes down to that. And I think that you can make a good choice regardless of what your choices are. Now, we have 2 years of President Trump to go on. We didn't have that before. We have something that we can look at. We have a foundation of his presidency that we can look at and say, okay, how do we feel about this, or how do we feel about that? And we also have what the Democrats are coming with as far as whoever might get the ticket. Now, my issue primarily with the left is that they are going very far left. They are taking some stances on some issues that, for me, is kind of difficult to digest. I'm an independent. I have always leaned more towards the Democratic Party, liberal, but they're making that very difficult to do. Now, with this upcoming election, we could wait until they have a candidate, and then we could say, okay, well, who do you like? Biden or Trump, or Kamala and Trump, or Warren and Trump? But, I don't think it even matters. I don't think we have to wait before we start making this decision, because the reality of it is everybody on the left has gone very far left, and they're making campaign promises that you can't just back away from. You can't say, oh, we're going to give, health care to all, and then don't try to do it. Or, hey, we're going to pay off everybody's college tuition, and then don't try to do it. But these are things that they are making some of the pillars of their campaign. Biden is the most moderate, I guess, of the Democrats, but even he is embracing a lot of the ideologies that come with the Green New Deal, and a lot of the things that are a little difficult for me to stomach. And I have to think that I am a huge chunk of the people in this country. I'm not sure that this country is ready to go so far left. I don't know that we're ready to have a system that decriminalizes crossing the border illegally. I don't know if we're ready to have a system that guarantees health care for every immigrant that comes to this country. I don't know if we have a system that can afford paying off everybody's few $1 trillion school debt. I just don't know that those things are going to me, it sounds like socialism. And, you can't define socialism by one. You can't say, well, look at this government, that's a socialist government. Just like you can't do it with a democracy. There are some things that are the pillars of that system, and there's a lot of off branches of that system throughout the world. Now, the one thing that is the main point, from my understanding of socialism, is the redistribution of wealth. I don't agree with the redistribution of wealth. My grandpa, who considered himself to be a yellow dog Democrat, which meant to say he would vote for a yellow dog before he'd vote for a Republican, very liberal, free thinker, just a very intelligent. Career in the military, was in the military for 31 years, retired, a warrant officer in the Army. So I take his opinion, or took his opinion, very, very seriously take it to heart, because he's very, very well educated, and you know, he made a very good comment about socialism. He said, if you took everybody's money and you put it in a big pile and you divided it up amongst everybody in this country in the morning time, by the time the sun went down, you'd have rich people and you'd have poor people, because socialism doesn't take into account certain things. You know, what's my drive? What's my dedication to work? What sense, if I'm a doctor, and this is another point that my grandpa used to make, if I'm a doctor and I'm seeing 50 patients a day because I am extremely motivated about getting my practice off the ground and about changing people's lives and about making a bunch of money, but then I got this guy next door to me who's seeing 10 patients a day, and he's getting paid the same amount, because that's what it would look like in a socialist government. What incentive does the guy seeing 50 patients a day have to keep seeing 50 patients a day? There's no incentive for him to do so. So my other issue, though, is President Trump. And you couldn't have convinced me that he was going to be a good choice to run this country. After 2 years, I've got to say, it's not as bad as everybody on the left made it out to be. And this is a guy who has spent his entire 2 years trying to dodge every bullet, justified or unjustified, that the left can throw at him. And while I have not made my final decision to vote for Trump, he is definitely out in front of any of the Democrats that I see running right now. There's a few reasons for this. The economy is better. I don't care what the left tries to tell you, what mainstream media tries to tell you. I have done extensive research on these numbers, and they're not just numbers that are getting thrown around. Even the Democrats will admit that the economy's good. But what they'll add on to that is, but it's not good for the average person. But it is good it's better for the average person. More jobs for minorities, higher pay grade, you know, a very low rate of unemployment, and these are just things that cannot be disputed. They're facts that can't be disputed. So I think the Democrats are going to be going down a slippery slope trying to play the economy against President Trump. I just don't think that's going to work. I think that people are intelligent enough and they are informed enough to understand that regardless of whether you like Trump or not, his economy is a good one. An incumbent president with a good economy is very difficult to beat. And then I think you throw into that mix the fact that everybody that is possibly going to be running against him is talking about basically turning this into a socialist country through their policies. I think that's another point in his favor that's just going to make it easier for him to win. Now, I'm not sure what the Democrats are going to have to do to make a good run at this. I don't know which candidate is going to be the best representative for the Democratic Party. A lot of people say Joe Biden simply because he's, you know, the most moderate one that's in the race for that ticket right now, and you have a track record to look at when it comes to Biden. He's been around a long time, but I don't think he's far enough left for what is becoming the majority of the Democratic Party. I believe that they want to see more far left-wing policies implemented. Healthcare for all, healthcare for every illegal immigrant that comes. How is that even possible? How could we possibly ensure that every immigrant that crosses this border is guaranteed health care? Wasn't it something like 150,000 immigrants crossed the border last month? How on this God's green earth are you going to ensure every one of those 150,000 a month has health care? You can't even ensure the people in this country have health care. You can't ensure the people in this country have a place to live or have a steady income or anything. I mean, really, how? And people will take this the wrong way, you know, but immigrants are what our country is built on. But typically, you have one common denominator when it comes to immigrants. They're hurting. They're hurting financially. They don't like where they live. They're not getting the opportunities they want. They can't have a huge nest egg saved up because if it was that good, they wouldn't want to leave. So what you're doing is you're taking this huge bowl of problems that we already have in this country and you are openly inviting more. It's not anything I have against immigrants. It's what I have against the current system. We can't even take care of our own people. We can't even make a good effort. I just don't get it. I don't understand how this could be. If you tell me, okay, health care for all, I'm not sure that I agree with that either. But if your campaign promise was every American is going to have health care, and like I say, I'm not even sure that I agree with that. But that's a lot easier for me to stomach than saying every immigrant that comes to this country is going to get health care. And how are you going to figure out where all the immigrants are in this country? That's another thing. They don't even want to put the question, are you a legal citizen of the United States, on the census? A question that's been asked for 200 years. So if you're not even willing to find out how many immigrants you have in this country, how can you promise them health care? How can you promise them opportunity? I don't understand that. And that's my issue with the left, is the fact that they have systematically run me off. They have run me off as a vote that they should have in the bag every 4 years, every 2 years, whatever I go out to vote for. The Democrats should have my vote in the bag because they're the party of diversity. They're the party that's not racist. They're the party that's this. They're the party that's that. That's a whole nother video, but most of that's not true either. I get a lot of flack from a lot of the people that I talk to because a lot of my friends are liberal and a lot of my friends are minorities, and they can't even stomach hearing me have anything positive to say about President Trump. They just don't like it. And so I find myself in these never-ending debates with people. And one thing that I realize is that my liberal friends will never come to the same conclusion that I have for the most part, simply because they're not willing to look at the situation as it is. They are looking at the situation as it is presented to them. And that's unfortunate because at the end of the day, everybody that lives in this country is going to feel the effects, negative or positive, from any huge policy changes that we have. This election is extremely important. I don't care who you vote for. You gotta vote. If you're able to vote, you have to vote. This country is at a time and a place in history that will be a defining moment. This election will be a defining moment. And like I say, I don't care who you vote for, but you gotta vote for somebody. It is important. It is extremely important. Now, I don't know how many more of these conversations that I'm going to have on these videos. I really enjoy talking about politics. I would love to hear any of your comments or your thoughts. Please drop them below. Tell me what's on your mind. I would love to open a dialogue and have a discussion about everything politics. Like I say, I haven't made my final choice yet. But unless I hear something extremely different than I'm hearing right now from the left, I'm going to vote for Trump. Yeah, I said it. So if you think I'm wrong, then please, by all means, tell me what you think. Tell me why I shouldn't vote for Trump. Give me one candidate that is going to make my life better. Tell me one ideology or one political thought process that is going to improve this country more than what Trump has been doing over the last 2 years. If you have a viable argument, you don't know how bad I want to hear it. I would almost love somebody to be able to convince me that I shouldn't vote for Trump. Now, everybody out there that loves Trump, they're going to tell me I'm crazy, just like the people that hate Trump are going to tell me I'm crazy. I'm right in the middle. But I know it. This is a fact. It will be much easier for me to cast my vote for Donald Trump in this election because of what I have seen from him already than it would have been in the last election. Hence the reason I didn't vote, because I really thought Hillary was a bad idea. And so take those thoughts into consideration. If you have comments, like I say, please